Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time, European edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, as per usual, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. A very good day to you both. Steve, hot dogs striking again last week, and generally over the last few weeks and months have been in really good form. Even Nigel joined the party midweek on the Premier League show with a terrific play on Ipswich. And, you know, we've talked about it privately. We've talked about it on the show. Better sometimes we can be a bit cautious. We can look for those Asian plays that are sort of generally even money. But you don't want to leave anything behind here. The bigger prices can be profitable. You've got a little bit more variance to deal with sometimes. But look, you know, hot dogs have been good recently.
Well, good day to you both, Dan and James, and apologies in advance. We're talking hot dogs here, but Kit Kat in the background is off on a tear. So if you hear him going, then it's more cat than dog. But the hot dog.
How does a cat go off on a? Hang on. How does a cat go off on a tear? What is he doing?
He likes to chase a bottle top. Sometimes gets very playful. So yeah, it really excites him doing that. So
right.
Yeah, whatever
Sorry.
floats your boat.
Let's talk dogs, not cats. Go on.
I'll tell you what, the hot dog saved my ass this season, really, especially in recent times. I found it easier to actually pick the winners of the hot dog, but also have a short list of hot dogs. I mean, I had about 5 or 6 on my short list for the hot dog this week. Was really struggling to find the 2-unit play. I was actually talking to Jack Wright last night because we're doing the live show today, and I told him my dilemma, and he said, just go for every pick as a hot dog, even 2-unit. And I nearly thought about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, across the board, I mean, you know, I think we've had so many cash recently for all of the handicappers. Nigel, you know, that was the icing on the cake, wasn't it, with a brilliant pick on Ipswich. But you know, there's no doubt about it in my mind that the hot dog must be well in profit across both shows. I feel this season, Dan, for me, a lot of really obvious-looking great bets with teams in a good spot or a bad spot just haven't cashed for me. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a sign of things. And I've kind of learnt a bit this week. I am kind of going a bit harder with some big price plays because I seem to be doing better with those.
Yeah, look, Steve's got some really interesting selections, some big prices as well coming your way on today's show. I mean, it is that time of year, James, when all tipsters, not just the ones on this show, but people start to look at the P&L and start to get a bit more cautious. Apart from James Easton, of course, who's been up all season long. But James, I mean, look, you know, you can swing for big prices, but it's important not to do it just for the sake of it, isn't it, at this time of year?
Yeah, I tend to try to do exactly the same thing through this sort of final 10-20% of the season as I would have done all season, regardless of where I am P&L wise, which can be really difficult if you're down. Obviously, the temptation is to go for bigger shots.
Absolutely.
My way of looking at it is that if I was down and I went for bigger shots that I maybe wouldn't have gone for earlier in the season, it would hurt even more if they didn't come off, because then you think, well, I didn't really totally believe in it. So I think the most important thing is to keep doing whatever you generally do, even if it's difficult. And, you know, they say there's always another weekend, there's always another day, there's always another season as well. So, yeah, it can be tricky this time of season as you feel you're coming to the end of a period and you would like to finish it in profit. I totally understand that. But I think Steve makes a really good point there. You know, talking about what you do best on sometimes is the way to go. If you are good at long shots, or you're going through a period where that's where your understanding of teams and players and form is lying, then they're your best shots, right? So it's just a case of trying to maintain that discipline, do the right thing. We're obviously keeping to our structure on the show: 1-unit plays, 2-unit plays, hot dogs, and an SGP every weekend. And that would be my advice, really. Just keep doing what you do generally, and hopefully if you are down, things will turn in your favour.
Yeah, shrewd. Good advice, definitely from the boys there. Just a reminder of the P&L for the season on the European show. A healthy profit, of course, still backing Steve to get into plus figures by the end of the season. Get your comments in on YouTube. What are you betting this weekend? Good response to the show last weekend. I know there wasn't any Premier League football, but we all see a bit of an upswing. Let's see if we can keep it there. Tell us what you like, who you're fading, who you're betting over the course of the European weekend. Don't forget, we are on Twitter at Because We Win, Instagram as well, and our newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. If you've not signed up, now is the time to do it. Some really good picks You get 2 newsletters ahead of the weekend and going into the midweek fair. So an awful lot of free content coming your way from the app Because We Win Betting Weekly team. Let's start with Germany this week, shall we? And Steve's got 2 unit and hot dog coming straight away for us because they are Saturday morning Eastern, 9:30 a.m. We're going to kick off with Steve's 2 unit play. Mainz against Holstein Kiel here. Mainz are minus 235. Holstein Kiel are plus 600. 7 games to go in the Bundesliga. Steve, is Holstein Kiel's race run? They've lost their last 2 after a little bit of a revival. They're adrift of that playoff place now by about 5 points. Do we start to fade them a little heavier? I mean, we've been playing sort of overs on their games recently. We've been winning some, not all of them. How are we tackling this one for your 2 unit play?
Well, this is my 2 unit play of the week, and the bet is Mainz -1 Asian handicap at -141. I could have had several plays in this game. I could have had the hot dog in this game. I've even got an unofficial SGP, which I'll talk about at the end of when I talk about this game. Last week, I took over 3.5 goals, didn't I? Holstein Kiel against Werder Bremen, and it didn't deserve to go over 3.5, and mostly because Holstein Kiel were awful. I think their race is run. I really do. That defeat they had against Heidenheim just before the international break, it felt like it's ripped the heart out of them a bit. They've lacked belief since then, and with Heidenheim winning and Bochum also picking up results generally in the last couple of months, it does feel like they're going to probably end up bottom of the table. I mean, they've had a good go, but that was such a poor performance. They offered really nothing, and I can't get that out of my head, which is why I think Mainz rack up quite an easy win here. 2 significant stats. 10 of Mainz's 13 wins in the league this season have been by 2 goals or more. That's a really high number, actually. So when they win, they do tend to win well. 13 of the 18 defeats that Holstein Kiel have had have been by 2 goals or more. So immediately you're thinking the handicap comes in play, don't you? -1. I'm being conservative here because of the 2 unit play. But -141 is still a nice juicy winner for that cash. I did look at the -2 Asian handicap, plus 220. I think that's a bit. If this is a big win, I think that could be a really big price. So that was definitely on the hot dog list. And also, Holstein Kiel have conceded 2 or more goals an incredible 24 out of 27 times. I mean, that's absurd, isn't it? I mean, for a top-flight league, it just shows you how poor their defence is. They normally offer something at the other end. They didn't last week. And I just wonder, as I say, is their race run? And the unofficial SGP, I looked at this because they've got
last week,
striker.
the unofficial SGP.
And this reminds me so much of that one. This is at plus 220. Jonathan Burkhardt to score. He's had a great season at striker rate for Mainz, 15 goals. Mainz to win and over 2.5 goals, plus 220. I think that's near enough the same as just backing Burkhardt any time, because I think Mainz will win and I think it'll be over 2.5. So that just stood out to me. I was playing around with the Bet Rivers SGP fiddles, but on the 2 unit play, like I say, Mainz -1 on the Asian handicap at -141. I really struggle to see beyond a convincing home win.
And the hot dog is also in Germany. It's also a 9:30 a.m. kickoff on Saturday morning Eastern. It's Leipzig against Hoffenheim here. Leipzig -195, Hoffenheim plus 450. Marco Rosa sacked. Leipzig have lost their last 2, only 3 wins in their last 12. I think it had been coming. Look, Steve, we know they're an ambitious side, and those in charge at Leipzig sort of demanding Champions League and challenging for honours here. It's not worked out for the coach, but they are still significant minus money here. So how do we play this one against Hoffenheim? This is the hot dog. Where are we going?
Yeah, and I just can't help myself here. I think Hoffenheim are way too big at plus 450 to win on the money line. I've been riding against RB Leipzig a lot recently, and it has worked. They're a mess. They seem an absolute mess. They sacked Marco Rosa just before a cup semi-final, which for me didn't make any sense. I mean, it's just really bad timing. I mean, effectively that became, I think, the German Cup final because Bielefeld, third tier Bielefeld beat Leverkusen. So, they're out of that cup now because Stuttgart beat them 3-1. Zolt Low is in charge for the rest of the season on interim basis. I don't know if it's a relation to the former Germany boss, Joachim Low. But he looks like a disciple of Thomas Tuchel, been an assistant under Tuchel quite a lot. But anyway, if it was me, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Jurgen Klopp, of course, behind the scenes at Red Bull now. I would have put Klopp in the hot seat for the last, 6-7 games? Interim. And I think that would have been a nice move if he was up for it. Apparently they want to bring in Glasner from Palace in the summer, RB Leipzig. So anyway, at the minute they're a mess. They've just lost in the cup, and now they're facing a Hoffenheim side who they still need the points. You know, suddenly Heidenheim's couple of wins have put a little bit of pressure on them. They're 14th in the table. They're only 5 points clear of that playoff position. They've won a few games away from home recently. Actually, Hoffenheim they've been better away than at home. They beat Bochum, Werder Bremen, and Kiel on the road. You know, in horse racing terms, this is a little bit of a step up in class, but maybe they can come on for the run because I just think RB Leipzig are so opposable. You can be more. I nearly just looked at Tino bet here plus 310. That might be the better bet, but plus 450 on the money. I can't help myself, Dan. I think RB Leipzig are just a clear fade at the minute, and I do believe Hoffenheim will give us a decent run for our money here. They won the reverse fixture 4-3, by the way. So I think that's a positive for Hoffenheim. They've generally been poor this year, but one loss in 6 games, firing away from home against, RB Leipzig side in turmoil. The fans may well be on their backs here. Don't like what I'm seeing. The pressure's on them. I think we can get an away win at a big price.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, Hoffenheim are above Leipzig in both the 4 and the 6-match form tables here. They're a massive prize. But as Steve points out, if you want to be a bit more cautious, obviously the boys put up picks here, but you want to play Tino bet, you want to play on the Asian line, completely understand it, you want to sort of stagger ladder your bets. But for hot dog purposes, we're going on the money line at plus 450 here. And just to finish our sort of Germany roundup here, Steve, you have got a lean for us in the Bochum game. They are taking on Stuttgart.
I want to get with your boys Bochum here, Dan, in some form. And the question is how. I looked at the money line. I looked at them Tino bet. I decided to go with the team total over 1.5 goals, plus 128, because I think Stuttgart are opposable here. They've just won in that cup semi-final. They're on cloud 9. They'll beat Arminia Bielefeld in the final. They'll be qualifying for the Europa League, in my opinion. So now it's all about that match. I mean, in the league, they're 11th. They're probably just... They could still get in the top 5-6 in the league, but I think this could be a come-down spot. Bochum are fighting for their lives, and they're going to give it everything. Yeah, the stats don't necessarily support this bet, but they have scored 2 or more goals in 9 games this season, and since sort of Christmas, they've been improved in that way. Stuttgart have conceded 2 goals or more on 13 occasions this season, which is a lot, really, for a side that were in the Champions League. Guess how many Stuttgart clean sheets have had in the Bundesliga, Dan?
I'm imagining not a lot. Let's say 8.
4. 4 clean sheets out of 27. One of them was actually in the reverse fixture against Bochum, Freiburg, Augsburg, and a ridiculous 0-0 against Bayer Leverkusen, where they got absolutely pummeled. So you can score on this team. So I think that's the best way to get with Bochum on the team total. They could lose the game and you could still cash. But I actually think Bochum win this one, Dan. I think they get the win. And I certainly think they can get 2 goals in the process.
Yeah, look, we're scrambling to stay up. Don't worry about that. I mean, Bochum have played the top 3 last 3 games. They beat Bayern, of course, but didn't get any joy out of the other 2. They've had a very hard schedule. I tried to get a Bochum mug for the show. You know, I tried to order one from the Bochum Club shop. The mug was €15. To get it to London was €15. I can't deal with that. Thanks, Brexit. Let's move on and welcome James back to the show. Hello, James. James has been putting his feet up while we've been talking Bundesliga. We're going to get James's 2-unit play here. This is Brest Monaco on Saturday, which is 1 p.m. Eastern. Brest plus 265, Monaco minus money here. Now, obviously, Brest cashed Steve's hot dog last week. Elevated to 2-unit status for James here, but we're not playing the money line. James, where are you going for the 2U?
Yeah, not playing the money line. Instead, we're going on the goal line. So my 2-unit play here is on over 2.75 goals in this game, available at minus 136. So if the game has 3 or more goals, then you're going to make a profit. So come on to the game in a second. But just a general point, people who've been watching the show a long time, they may remember this time last year, we did say that in the final sort of 6 or 7 match days in France, the goals count generally goes up.
Yeah, we talked about that last year.
Yeah, even though the prices may shorten, you're still in a position where you can actually make a profit if it follows the trend that we've seen in recent seasons. Last weekend, people may have noticed, I think we had 7 out of 9 games in France go over 2.5 goals. It would have been about a 4-point profit if you'd backed to level stakes. So just a pointer there for people generally, as we come into the final 6 or 7 match days in France. Overs tends to happen more frequently than it does in the rest of the season. And I don't normally do overplays. I over-under plays 2 unit, 1 unit, any sort of play. But towards the end of the season, I tend to look at this market a little bit more because you can find games where the prices are still pretty good and where the odds, in my opinion, have moved towards the games being over. So this is my pick of the weekend for that to happen in France. It's Brest Monaco, 2 unit play over 2.75 goals. Why this game in particular? Well, a couple of reasons. The first is that the long-term form actually on these two sides points towards overs anyway. If you look at all the games they played, it's over 60% of matches have had over 2.5 goals. If you look at Brest home games, Monaco's away games, and just take those in isolation, over 60% of those matches has had over 2.5 goals as well. So pretty good long-term stats on both these sides. Then if you look at the league table, and obviously we talk a lot about motivation at this time of the season, this is a game where I cannot see any way for the two teams to play it other than going for the win. So looking at Brest, first of all, they're 8th in the table. We think the top 7 in France might qualify for Europe. Brest are 5 points at the moment behind 7th place, so they know exactly what they've got to do. They've got to try and claw back some points and close that gap. They were really positive last weekend. They won 4-2 at Toulouse and played pretty well, so I think they'll go for it here. And Monaco are caught up in a really tight race for a top 3 spot. There's very little between the top 5 or 6 sides behind PSG at the moment. And they can't afford to go into games like this thinking that a draw would be enough. So you've got 2 really attack-minded managers at the moment anyway. You've got long-term stats in your favour. And you've also got the fact that, as we say, in France towards the end of the season, games tend to be a little bit higher scoring than in the early parts of the campaign. So I think you've got lots of things in your favour here. Over 2.75 goals is the play, minus 136. And with that pick, as long as we have 3 goals in the game, you are going to make a profit.
That is Brest Monaco. James's 2 unit play over 2.75 goals, minus 136. And we have got some leans to wrap up with on Saturday. First of all, in France, we'll stick with James here. Paris Saint-Germain, who take on Angers. PSG, 21 points clear. 21 points remaining to play for, so they are champions in all but name here. They technically need a point, I guess, James. They play Villa at home, of course, in the Champions League next midweek. We always talk about rotation. They don't tend to do it as much as we sort of think that they will do. We've sort of got used to that. What are your thoughts on this one, and indeed whether PSG will rotate against Angers?
Yeah, really interesting game this for all those reasons you've mentioned, Dan. PSG, Angers. I've put it down as a lean here, a lean on PSG. You said it. They don't need to win this game. They only need a draw to wrap up the title. I would never back a team who don't need to win a game to actually win it. I think that, motivation, it can change almost subconsciously when a side don't want to win. So I'm not really advocating people back PSG here, but I just wanted to flag it up because it's such a fascinating scenario we've got. A lot more at stake here for Angers than there is for PSG. So people might look at the prices and they might think PSG are really good value here. My lean is PSG minus 2.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 122. If you see the way they've been playing and the winning margins they've racked up, it's been phenomenal from PSG recently. We had another one last weekend where they won 6-1 at Saint-Etienne. So if you look at the price, I think PSG possibly are a lean, but obviously the rider is that they don't need to win the game. So, you might want to think, well, this PSG side are just playing so well and they're so self-motivated regardless of what's at stake. If everything was equal and they did need to win, I think this handicap line would be insane because it's such a great opportunity to back PSG. Depends how you feel about the motivation factor. I personally think they will play pretty strongly here. I think they will go and try and win the title by winning and doing what they've been doing recently, which is winning in style. But you can't really guarantee it because they don't need a win. And as you say, Dan, they've got that massive game against Aston Villa coming up in the Champions League. So, as I say, I'm talking about it as a lean. It's just really a talking point as much as anything. On the point of rotation, which we touched on with PSG last week, will they rotate? Yes, I think they will rotate. I think one important thing to point out with PSG for people who maybe don't follow them that closely is they've actually got quite a small squad. Only 18 or 19 outfield players are ever really in contention at PSG to start. So when they do rotate, it stays a really strong starting 11. The sort of players who come into the side are people like Warren Zaïre in midfield, Lucas Hernandez in defence, these guys who can't play every week, Desiree Doué, who we flagged up and had a winner on with our hot dog pick last week. Despite the fact he's been in fantastic form, isn't a guaranteed starter. So if they rotate, I think they'll stay strong. Desiree Doué is a big price again this weekend, we should say, in the same market where we had a winner on him last weekend, which is the over 1.5 shots on target market. He's plus 295 in that market this weekend. So there's lots of ways to look at this game. You may want to write it off on the grounds that PSG don't need to win. I'm not getting involved. Fully understand that. But I think there are factors which are really fascinating on PSG, even though they only need to draw to claim the title.
I think punters, bettors have been caught out second-guessing PSG, putting up weakened teams or not having the motivation. And as you're right, they just keep scoring lots and lots of goals and covering handicap lines. And if this was a regular line, it'd be more than 2.25 for sure. Let's wrap up with Saturday with Steve and a Serie A Lean here. This is another interesting one for sort of similar reasons in a way. I mean, Inter aren't over the line, but only stretching the imagination for Serie A, but they are the title favourites. They take on a Parma side here, with, of course, Christian Kiel going back to his old club. He was a player for Inter for 6-7 years or so here. But a trend that you identified right off the bat, which has made money, I think, in 4 of 5 of Parma games so far since Christian Kiel came to coach the club. And you're going in again with this one, Steve.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to concur with James's 2 leans there in France. I really like both of those. Parma, I think they're an under machine under Christian Kiel. He's come in and he's decided he's going to try and keep them up in an ugly way by grinding out results, draws, things like that. I was going to have a whole segment on the bottom half of Serie A in this show, Dan, but we just simply haven't got enough time. But most of the teams down there are trying to stay up, playing the same way, and it's not pretty, is it? This is an interesting matchup against Inter because Inter could well be looking ahead to the Champions League against Bayern Munich, and they're showing all the hallmarks of champions. You know, you look at some of their recent results. They were 2-0 down against Monza and they came back to win 3-2 just to annoy everyone. Then they've had big wins, you know, important win against Atalanta away. They scraped past Udinese last week 2-1. They're finding ways to win matches, get the result without playing their best necessarily. And I think this will be the same. I could see this being something like 1-0, 2-0 to Inter. Parma are not offering too much. What do Parma want to get out of this game? Well, obviously, points ideally. But if they're not to get any points, then they want some momentum, something to build on for next week. And if they only lost 1-0, say, I think that would be good for them. They'd feel all right about themselves. They just don't want to get beaten big. Goal difference could be important, potentially, in this battle against survival. They've got a decent enough goal difference at this point in time, but they don't want to suddenly randomly lose 6-0. So I think they'll just park the bus, make it hard for Inter to break them down. Inter eventually will break them down. Inter will win the game. Champions do that. But I don't think they'll win big. I looked at the handicap on Parma, but I prefer to take under 2.75 goals because I just think this is the way to attack Parma games at the minute. Just keep backing the unders blind, and I think you'll probably get some profit until the end of the season.
I think it's a true bet. It's the sort of game that Inter, as you say, would get ahead 1-0 and then not really sort of, play out the rest of the game, manage the game, keep the players fit and look forward to that game against Bayern, which is away from home, of course, in midweek. That's under. It's just a lean. 2.75 is a high line for a Parma side that are massive unders under Kiel, as we know. Sunday slate starts with a game that both of our European cappers have got official picks in. Slightly different bets. It's Montpellier against Le Havre that we're talking about. 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Montpellier, our favourites, plus 132. Le Havre, a 2-1 here. James, you can talk about this one first because you've got one unit play in it, as Steve has. Just explain, Montpellier obviously at home for the first time since that abandoned game against Saint-Etienne, news coming through just recently what that means in terms of what the French football authorities are going to do with the scoreline, and indeed are fans going to be in the stadium? I suspect not for this game, or indeed any of the games Montpellier are going to play between now and the end of the campaign. Just talk about that for a second, then give us your play.
Yeah, well, it was the latest poor incident. What's been a terrible season for Montpellier, bottom of the League One table. That game was abandoned at home to Saint-Etienne. It was, as you say, their last home match. It's now been awarded as a win to Saint-Etienne. It won't be replayed. It won't be restarted. Saint-Etienne were leading anyway, 2-0, when the game was abandoned because of fan protests behind one of the goals. And it's been awarded as a 2-0 win to Saint-Etienne. Fans in the stand where the trouble occurred in that game won't be allowed to attend, or the stand will be closed for the final 3 home games of the season at Montpellier. They will be allowed to attend in other parts of the ground. So, yeah, there will be fans there, but then that is the stand that hosts their most passionate and noisy fans. They're entitled to go and stay in other parts of the stadium. Whether they'll do that or not, we'll have to wait and see. But the biggest factor for me on this game is just how poor Montpellier have been recently. You know, they're bottom of the table, and they look to me like a team who don't believe they can get out of relegation trouble, which I fully understand. They're 9 points now from safety. We don't have that many games to go. They're facing a side here in Le Havre who are only 2 places above them, one of the other teams in relegation trouble. So it's a huge opportunity for Montpellier to take points off one of the only sides they can catch. But I just don't believe that they can do it. And for me, that's why I'm backing Le Havre here. My 1 unit play is on this game. It's Le Havre, tie no bet at plus 112. As you've said, Montpellier are favourites. Le Havre are underdogs. I understand that Le Havre haven't been playing amazingly well, but at the moment they're the only one of these 2 teams I would be on, because they at least have shown some form recently. They're still down in trouble near the foot of the table, but they've got the best 5-game form of any of the bottom 6 of Le Havre. And if you watch the way they celebrated last weekend when they beat Nantes 3-2, I thought it was really instructive, because they celebrated that win like a team who are ready for this. They're ready for the relegation fight. And I think sometimes that can be the difference between a team staying up and going down. Le Havre expected to be in a relegation battle all season. They're ready for it now because they've been prepping pretty much since pre-season mentally to be here. And teams can either fade under that pressure or they can sort of step up and deal with the pressure. And I just felt the way that they went about that win last weekend over Nantes, where they were the better side, where they got a late winner, where they celebrated as a team. I think they'll go into this game thinking, well, if we can beat Nantes, we can definitely beat Montpellier, because they've got all sorts of trouble, haven't they? So I looked at these prices. I thought the plus 200 on Le Havre was too big. It's a slightly more conservative pick than backing them on the money line. It's Le Havre, tie no bet, so you'll get your stakes back if it ends in a draw. But I think all the factors on this game are pointing towards Le Havre and away from Montpellier. So find some way of backing Le Havre would be my advice. My play is my 1 unit play, and it's Le Havre, tie no bet at plus 112.
Steve, you are going for the bigger price play, though.
Yeah, I said last week, I've got to pick my spots to be a bit more aggressive now. If we look at the profit loss for the season. And I think this is a good opportunity at plus 200 on Le Havre to win on the money line. I mean, this was nearly my hot dog as well. I mean, one of the reasons I've not put it as the hot dog is I don't think it will kick off at plus 200. I think they'll kick off about plus 175. I think they'll shorten, basically, in approach to the game. There's not a lot else to add. I mean, Montpellier have lost 8 or 9 official games in a row now. They're done. They're absolutely done. They're just nothing left in this team. They know they're down. And Le Havre have got way more fight about them. They were actually unbeaten in 4 away games consecutively, including wins at Lens and Lille, before they lost against Lyon 4-2. But that was a game where they were very much in it. They led 2-1. They gave Lyon a lot of fright, and the handicap backers were lucky that covered actually on Lyon that day. So, you know, Havre have suddenly got goals in them. They're fighting for their lives. Plus 200 on facing the worst side in France at the minute in the top division. It just looks way too big. I thought Le Havre would be favourites. They should be favourites for me at this point in time. And I mean, the biggest risk here is that the match won't get completed again. I could see it if Le Havre are like 2 or 3 up. The fans, no fans should be allowed in this stadium this weekend, in my opinion. They should have given them a complete closed door ban for this game. I think it's an easy cop out getting rid of that stand. But so yeah, if you are betting on the game, and you've got the certain books out there that do offer, if the team goes 2-0 up, you get a winner. Then I'd be doing that because that's my biggest fear here. I could just see it where we don't get paid out because of the fans again. So I do hope they behave themselves because I think Le Havre will get the win here. And this is my 1 unit official play of the week. I nearly had it 2 units on this. I nearly went 2 units or 2 units on the Tino bet. But what use the draw for Montpellier now? If it is a draw with 10 minutes to go, they have to go for it. There's no other option. So yeah, struggling to see beyond an away win in this game.
Let's hope that the ultras don't infiltrate the family stand and get the families involved. I agree. I was surprised when James told me there that some stands were open. Anyway, we're hoping for a Le Havre, and we're hoping that the fans behave themselves that do go to this one. Speaking of lively fans, Marseille Toulouse next for us here, 245. Marseille minus 141 to win this one. Toulouse plus 380. Marseille have lost 3 on the spin. Worst run, and De Zerbi. James has got his hot dog here. We're not playing Marseille, but this is a Marseille focused hot dog, and you've got a shot on target play for us, James.
Yeah, and the player is Valentin Rongier, the Marseille midfielder, to have over 0.5 shots on target in the game, which is available at plus 255. Really big price on Rongier. Can't remember if we've done him before this season. We've certainly mentioned him in passing at the very least in this market because he's a good player and he is capable of earning as a profit in this particular market. So a couple of reasons why I've gone for Rongier here. The first is his own personal stats this season. He started 12 times for Marseille in Ligue 1. He's managed at least 1 shot on target in 6 of those games. Now, on that top line stat of 6 out of 12, he should be even money really here, shouldn't he? On that basis, plus 100, and you're getting a player at plus 255. So I think he's good value just on his own strengths. He's not an outstanding goal scorer from midfield, but he does get forward into good scoring positions. He scored an excellent goal, we should say, in their 3-1 defeat against Reims last weekend, getting into the box and firing a really good shot home. So I think on the back of that, he'll be tempted to have another go anyway this weekend. The second reason you've alluded to, Dan, is the fact that Marseille have lost 3 on the run. Really disappointed with the way they played last weekend when they lost 3-1 at Reims. It's been a tough week, I think, at the club. Players had a couple of their days off, cancelled, were told to come in and maybe work a little bit harder. So there's a lot of focus on this match. They lost second place in the table by losing last weekend. They want to get that back. And I think De Zerbi's under a bit of pressure maybe for the first time this season to show that he can get more out of his players perhaps than he's been getting recently. How I think that will manifest in the game, I think we'll see Marseille go for it from the very start here. They'll want to win, and they'll want to win emphatically. It's not one of those games where they can just afford to get the win any which way. They'll want to prove a point in the way they play. And what I think that means in terms of this pick is we will see midfielders like Rongier looking to get forward rather than looking to go the other way. So I just think that increases his chances of trying to get into scoring positions. And the third factor is Toulouse. Yeah, they're looking like a mid-table side now. They didn't look super motivated to me when they lost last weekend. Are we seeing a team who are already on the beach? Maybe they'll be a bit more motivated because it's Marseille. It's a big game. I'm not quite sure, but I expect Marseille to dominate. I think they'll have a lot of the ball. I think they'll get into good scoring positions, and I think the likes of Rongier from midfield will be part of that. So all the factors for me stood out here. I think it's a really big price. That's my hot dog pick. So it's 1 unit, and it's on Valentin Rongier. Just to have over 0.5 shots on target. At the moment, he's available at plus 255.
You did tell me privately that there are a number of tempting shot on target selections this weekend. You also suggested that you might put them in the YouTube comments. You might mention them on the show. What do you want to do, James? Do you want to pull out a few more? Do you want to wait till people ask on the comments?
Well, it's a good question. Yeah. Well, I was doing my shortlist last night, as I always do on Wednesday nights. The only thing I do on a Wednesday night, and it was my longest shortlist of the season in this market. So I look at all the players in the over 0.5 shots on target market. There were 6 players over odds of plus 200 or bigger who stood out. So I've gone for Rongier. Yeah, there were other players there. I'll mention one, Ismail Kone at Rennes, who may not start, but if he doesn't start, you'll get your stakes back. Scored a goal last weekend. He's available at a good price for Rennes this weekend, plus 245. There were stacks of players like that. So I think I'll put them in the YouTube comments. I'll have another look at it. Yeah. In the end, I went for Rongier. Maybe you need to do a bit more research on one or two of the others who the initial shortlist, they stood out. And if I think they're worth backing, then I'll stick them in the YouTube comments when the video's up and people can maybe have a look at one or two other players as well.
Brilliant. What do we say with these things, Steve? I am 53 years old. What is it? 50 likes and you get a tip. 100 like. What do they do? What do they do on Twitter? What do they do on YouTube?
Well, it isn't
if
even
we
called
get
Twitter
1,000
now,
comments.
This is X
if we
now,
get 1,000 YouTube comments, if you get 1,000 YouTube comments, then James will give you some more shot on target plays.
There we go.
How about that? I don't know what's the bar here. 50 comments and we get more plays. I don't know what is it. I see it all the time. Yeah. Who wants a free play? And you get more. Now then, it wouldn't be a betting weekly because we win European show without a mention of Saint Etienne. So Steve, just a lean for you. Give us your thoughts on Lever this weekend.
Yeah, that's interesting that James had so many on his shortlist there. We're calling them the dirty dozen, are we? Dirty half dozen, sorry. Look, you can probably guess what the lean's going to be here, and it is on Saint Etienne, and it is on the money line, just because of it's the odds really that stand out to me. Plus 460 to beat Lens, and the thing is, I don't even think Lens are that good. I really don't. Certainly, we've talked about them since the January transfer window. They've lost players. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games. I think they surprised us both by beating Marseille and Rennes 1-0, but in a way, it kind of suited them, those games. They were certainly the underdog in Marseille, and will still put together a decent game plan. I also think the players were playing for the manager, because off the field, his partner, the Sky Sports presenter Emma Saunders, was very ill and hospitalised after surgery, I think. And I think the players gave a bit more for him. So that, we've always got to look at those sort of factors. We wish her well, of course. But I do wonder if Lens can get themselves up for this game against a Saint Etienne side who are fighting for their lives. I'm still convinced before the end of the season, at least 1, maybe 2 occasions, Saint-Etienne can win on a big price on the money line. I don't know who against. Maybe Horneland can make himself a legend and beat Lyon soon. That'd go down well. Maybe they can come here and get a win, because Lens are not that convincing. I would have had Lens, honestly, closer to... I'd have minus money, but not by much. Maybe minus 115 to win, minus 110. Motivation itself is a big factor. I look at the league table. Lens are kind of in no man's land now, aren't they? Mid-table-ish. They're heading towards beach territory like Toulouse are. And the problem with Saint-Etienne is they're going to give up just too many chances. They sensationally took the lead last week against PSG. And I got a few messages came my way when they were 1-0 up. Are you excited, Steve? This, that, the other. And then they just kept playing the same way right until the end. PSG could have racked up 10 goals, but Saint-Etienne could have scored 2 or 3 as well. And this is what we're going to get with them for the rest of the season. You may as well, you could even add Saint-Etienne win and over 2.5 goals at plus 650 here, because they don't look like winning to 0 at any time. That said, this is the one team. Lens do have the most under 2.5 goal games in the entire division. It's only 9 overs this season for Lens. They miss a lot of chances. It wouldn't surprise me if Saint-Etienne get a result in this game. And I know there'll be a lot of comments about this. I keep backing my side, and they do have a way of letting you down, but they can deliver here. I think they can give a good account of themselves. Whether that equates to points is a different question. But plus 460, that's too big. That honestly is too big against a Lens side who are not that great.
Just a lean for Steve in that one, and not even a lean for James in the Roma-Juve game, but just a mention on this one. It's a newsletter pick, isn't it, here? Massive game in Italy, because it's 6th versus 5th, and Roma, top of an awful lot of form tables, have been brilliant. And do you want to give your newsletter pick, or are you not allowed? Do you want to give us your brief thoughts on this one? It's the big game Sunday in Italy at 2:45.
Yeah, it's a massive game. I just wanted to mention it really because it's such a great game. Yeah, my pick on this game is on the newsletter, which will be going out to subscribers. Loads of fantastic picks and content, like you've said in that newsletter. But thought it was worth a mention on the show because massive game. Igor Tudor has come in at Juventus and got a winning start last weekend with that 1-0 win over Genoa. So yeah, put them in fairly good shape for this match, which is going to be a real test for them. It's one of those games which is always interesting to me when you find all three odds on the match odds moneyline market at plus money. Roma plus 130, the tie is plus 215, and Juventus is plus 215. So I think the market obviously sees Roma as favourites because they've been in fantastic form. But what impact will that recent arrival of Igor Tudor have? I think that Juventus do go into it certainly pumped up, and we remember him from his time as Marseille manager. He'll certainly get them running hard and working hard on the pitch. A couple of things I just very quickly wanted to point out. One was you mentioned, Dan, Roma are top of a lot of the form tables. They're top of the 5-game form table and top of the 10-game form table. Juventus are actually third in the 10-game form table. If you're Thiago Motta, do you look at that and think, hang on, why did I get sacked again? Because 6 of those 10 wins were mine. So just interesting that people might think that Juventus have struggled. Yes, maybe they're not where they wanted to be or where maybe we thought they would be, but their form actually over that 10-game period where we have going into this game has been pretty good. And the other is something that, you pulled up before the show started, was about the outright markets in Serie A still maybe underestimating Roma a little bit, because in the top 4 finishing position, Roma are still available at plus 1,000, which is really big odds on a side who are just outside, the top 4. So loads of talking points in this match. I think it'd be a great watch. It may not be the most open or high scoring game. It might be, but it might not be. But I think it'd be a really fascinating watch to see how Tudor does in his first away game at Juventus against such a big and informed club. So fantastic game for everybody and lots of talking points.
Yeah, I still feel sorry for Thiago Motta. I think he'll come back. He will get another chance at a big club, and he will be successful. Yeah, Juve minus 200 for top 4. Incidentally,
I'm just sorry.
we've not.
That was
go on,
just
Steve.
hold on. Plus 1,000 for top 4.
Yeah,
Roma.
Yeah.
How's that? I mean, they're only 4
They've
points
still got.
off
They've still
Bologna.
got to. They've still got to play Inter away. They've still got to play Atalanta away. Juve have only got to play Bologna of the top 4. Remaining. I think it's a little bit, scheduling, but
that's just. I thought there'd be half that.
It's a big disgrace. It's a big difference, isn't it? It's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think I think you're right, Dan. I think it must purely be down to the fixtures and the market looking at it and thinking about how many points are they going to get from those games, and when you don't have that many games to go, you've got to get the points to get in the top 4 if you're not in it at the moment. But you're right, Steve. It's a way bigger price than I think any of us would have thought if we were looking at it and trying to predict it.
Yeah, I've just got to triple check it. Yeah, Roma 10-1, Juve minus 200, Bologna a plus 300, Lazio a plus 700. I think there's a lot in the scheduling there with them got to go to play Inter and Atalanta away from home for Roma. But look, they're the form team. It is potentially a big anomaly, maybe a big mistake. We've not talked Spain at all, so let's rectify that. Steve's got a couple of Sunday leans when it comes to La Liga. The first one early at 8 a.m. on Sunday, which is Las Palmas against Real Sociedad. What have you got for us here lean-wise, Steve?
Yeah, I've not got an official pick in Spain this week because it actually I lost a few personal picks in this league at the weekend, including the Bilbao selection. More on that soon. It really struggled with it, but I do want to quash a myth, a reputation here. We talk about Real Sociedad over the last, say, 2 or 3 years. Everyone talks that they're this big under team, defensive, don't score many, don't concede many, but I think it's changed. If we actually look at Real Sociedad, incredibly, they've played 22 games in 2025. 22 games. And we're in, 3rd of April? This is in all competitions. That's a lot of games, by the way. Coming into this match off the back of that bruising extra time defeat in the Copa del Rey against Real Madrid. And 11 of those 22 games have been both teams score yes. They've scored in 16 of those 22 games, and 14 of them have gone over 2.5 goals. So I don't think we can class Real Sociedad as this underish team now, can we? Both teams score yes is the lean at plus 108. Plus money here. Las Palmas, 9 of their last 11 games gone both teams to score yes. They've not won since the 22nd of December. but they have shown quite a bit of fight. I've watched their games recently. They've shown quite a bit of fight. I ended up backing
against
Celta
Celta,
Vigo
didn't they? Definitely.
on Monday, and they came back from 1-0 down and gave a good account. They came back well from 1-0 down and could have even won the game. They're showing something. I actually think Las Palmas will win the game. So it's maybe a bit of a bold statement for a team that's not won since before Christmas. But I do think they can get the win here against this Real Sociedad side, who it's a tough spot for them. But it just stood out to me. Both teams score, yes, at plus money, plus 108. I don't think either defence can be trusted right now.
And the other one is a big surprise to me. You referenced Athletic Club. They take on Villarreal away from home. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Obviously, they're involved in the Europa League away at Rangers the following Thursday. We've talked about the fact that they host the final. They're desperate to get through. They let everybody down last week. It was a real collective betting weekly play. I think we had a lot of comments regarding Athletic Club. But Steve, just as a lean, you're looking to get your money back maybe.
Yeah, I felt a bit unlucky last week with a couple of picks, but not with this one. I got it wrong. They didn't deserve to beat Osasuna. But, I've noticed something with Athletic Bilbao. I think in the first half of the season I did quite well with them. But in recent times, over the last 2 or 3 months, they seem to do the opposite of what you expect of them. Like, in a favourable spot, they've often let us down. And you put them in a position where we're not expecting them to do so well, and they tend to perform. I'm trying something out here. I am going to back this. It's not an official bet on the show. It's a lean. But I think Athletic Bilbao, draw no bet, plus 125, I think it is. It might have shortened in a little bit, is the play here. Because, like you say, everyone's going to be thinking they're going to be looking ahead to the Europa League. But this team's been doing the opposite to kind of what we expect. Villarreal only have the 13th best home record. Now, they have played, I think, a game less than most teams at home. But even if they'd won that, they're only just sneaking into the top 10. Villarreal have become this sneakily good away team, less good at home. And let's not forget, Athletic Bilbao have only lost 4 games in La Liga this season. All season in 29 fixtures. So they're a team that don't lose very often. So you take the Tino bet on them, usually it's quite a good percentage bet. I do believe that they are quite a bit better than Villarreal. I mean, look at the power rankings in the Betting Weekly Insider. Bilbao do feature in them, in the top 20. And I do think the next best side after them in Spain is Villarreal, but I think there's a little bit more of a gulf. There's 6 points between them anyway. Villarreal do have a game in hand. But for me, Athletic Club Bilbao are the better side. And, yeah, I'm just going to try something here. Let's put them in a position where they're not in a favourable spot and watch them deliver. They're a good team. Maybe they'll enjoy playing a Villarreal side who should give them more gaps and more spaces than what Osasuna did.
2 La Liga Leans for you on Sunday from Steve. And to wrap things up, Monday Night Soccer, we've got James's same game parlay here, and it's in the Bologna-Napoli game. It's a massive game, this one. Bologna have been absolutely brilliant second half of the season. They are top of the form tables and second behind Roma in many of the other little form tables over the course of the last few months. Napoli, of course, gunning for the title. Bologna, I don't think anyone would have thought that they were going to get back in the Champions League after such a slow start to the season, but they've been excellent. They've won their last 6. Napoli, only 2 wins in their last day, and of course they were saved by their keeper in that game against Milan last time out, who denied Jimenez from the spot. So same games parlay duty for James. I quite like Bologna in this one, but I'm tempted a little bit because they've not done brilliantly against teams above them this season. But James, you've put together an SGP for us.
Yes, I have. And I'm the same as you, Dan. I'm quite tempted by Bologna. In a way, I've been still trying to work out how good they are, because when you have a team who improved this much, the question is always, is it going to last, or are they going to revert to what they were earlier on in the season? But they've done really well. They are underdogs to win the game, actually. They're plus 185 and Napoli are plus 163. I couldn't really back Napoli at plus 163, given how they played over the last 7 or 8 games, even though they've been pretty good for us on the show, haven't they, away from home? So in the end, I went for the SGP here rather than the money line or the over goals or a straight pick on the match. And there are 3 legs to the SGP this time. The first leg being over 1.5 goals in the game, which has been a winner in pretty much 80% of all matches involving these two teams in Serie A this season. So over 1.5 goals in the game is leg number 1. Leg number 2 is over 2.5 Bologna corners in the match. This has been a real money spinner. If anybody had been putting this into a parlay this year, I think every single Bologna game in 2025, they've won 3 or more corners. And the third leg of the parlay is the same pick on Napoli. So Napoli over 2.5 total corners as well. 7 of the last 10 Napoli games, they've managed 3 or more corners. So the Napoli corners leg is a slightly weaker one of the 3. Very confident about the other 2. If you just do the other 2, which would be over 1.5 goals in the game and over 2.5 Bologna total corners, it'd be much shorter odds. Obviously, that's what you're losing out on. By putting in Napoli to have over 2.5 total corners as well, this SGP will pay out at 100 plus 123. So plus money SGP with 3 legs. As I say, the Napoli total corners one, slight doubt about that if you look at the stats, but I think they will go for this. They have to go for it, right? They're in the title race away from home. They've got to be positive. So I think they should manage over 2.5 total corners in the match. That's the parlay, the SGP, and it's plus 123.
Brilliant stuff. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We'll keep everyone updated with our X feeds. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European show. We'll be back next week, of course. Picks Plays, Hot Dogs, Same Game Parlays. Don't forget, live show, 11 a.m. Eastern every midweek day. Follow us at Because We Win. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get your comments in as well. If you want more shots on target play on Ligue, you're going to have to give us, what did we say, 100 comments, something like that, from James. So look out for that. We'll have plenty of comments, of course, over this weekend. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.